Okay, yeah, I'll try to start our lesson for today. So, yeah, today's topic is going to be on economics. So, economics is a very important part in our lives, because it deals with currencies and it deals with every exchange that goes around the world. So, it's important to learn about economics. So, what is economics? So, economics is the study of how people use limited resources. And what are these limited resources? Well, they are examples of resources include money, land, water, workers, and time. So, all of these are considered as resources, and economics is how people use these resources. And it's important to know that people have unlimited wants. People have unlimited wants, but resources are limited. And economics helps us make good choices. Let's take a look at an everyday example. So let's say a student has 50 cities and 2 hours of free time. Right? So these are two kinds of resources, right? This resource, 50 cedi resource, is money, right? Money. 2 hours of free time, that resource is time. So the student has these two resources. But the student cannot buy everything or do everything, right? It's limited. So the student must decide how to use their money and time wisely. So you're doing economics every day, essentially. So what you decide to do during the 2 hour free time, considering that is economics, what you want to do with 50 cities is also economics that you're doing every day. So let's watch this video, and it gives an introduction on what economics is and how economics is used in our everyday life. Let's look at this video.
Get business done with the new Graphite Business Cash Unlimited card and earn unlimited 2% cash back.
This may be the last ad you ever see.
Yeah, so that was the video on the introduction to economics, and we have seen how certain amount of money is limited, certain amount of resource, any kind of resource is limited, but we have to make wise decisions to buy certain things or use certain amount of time. Yeah, let me start briefly with the vocabulary first. So here are the vocabulary that we will be using in this slide. So economics, like we've talked about, is the study of how people use limited resources. Resources, again, are things people use to produce goods and services. Scarcity is when there is not enough of something for everyone. Choice is a decision between different options. And we will talk about the opportunity cost. This is what you give up when you choose something else. Goods are physical items that people buy or use, and services are work done for others, such as teaching or healthcare. And we have more vocabulary, a little bit more. Supply is the amount of a product available for sale. Demand is how much people want a product. Income is the money earned from work or business. Savings is the money kept for future use. Trade is the exchange of goods and services between people or countries. And again, we've already talked about scarcity in a situation where resources are limited and people cannot have everything. Yeah, I can actually go back to the previous slide too. If you haven't, if you want to write it down. Um, but again, I will explain this more as I go through the slide. So yeah, if you've finished writing down the vocabulary, we can move on to the next slides. Okay, I can return to this later as well, if you haven't finished writing. But let's talk about goods and services. Goods are things that we can touch, things that we can physically touch, things like bread, books, and clothes. Services are work people do for others. And this includes teaching, farming, and haircuts. So these are goods that you see in this picture on the top. These are services over here at the bottom. Now, when talking about goods and services, we get into it's called the scarcity. Right? Scarcity is when supply of a resource cannot meet a demand. What this means is that resources are limited. Right? but our wants are unlimited. We want to buy everything, but we don't have infinite money. So because of scarcity, people must make choices in their lives. So here we can see a little diagram. So on the top, because of unlimited wants and limited resources, this creates scarcity where we have limited resources. So that is why we must make choices. And choices include what to produce, how to produce, or for whom to produce. So these are three kinds of choices that we make because of scarcity. Because of choices that we make, the term opportunity comes up, right? What is an opportunity cost? This one. Opportunity cost is what you give up when you choose one thing instead of the other. Let's have an example. If you use your money to buy bread, the opportunity cost might be the fruit that you cannot buy. So if you had a limited amount of money and you can only buy a bread, then you can't buy the fruit. You can't buy both. So buying bread has an opportunity cost of a fruit. Let's have another example. If you spend your time playing football, the opportunity cost is the homework or the amount of rest that you miss. Again, if you had 2 hours of free time and you spent all 2 hours playing football, all your time playing football, right? But you could have spent the 2 hours playing or taking a rest or doing homework, right? Right. So by choosing football, by doing football for the 2 hours, you missed homework and rest. Those are called the opportunity cost. Okay. Yeah, and here is a diagram. The opportunity cost is the benefit that you miss when you make a choice. So again, here is another example. You have $100, right? One option is to spend it on shoes. Option 2 is to invest at 5%. So you can either spend it all on the shoes or invest, right? So if you buy the shoes, then the opportunity cost is the 5% that you're getting, right? And the 5% of 100 is 5, right? So if the invest is stuck at 5%, is fixed at 5%, then you're essentially losing $5, right? The opportunity cost for buying shoes is $5. Yeah, does this make sense for everyone? Yeah, I hope it does. So, does everyone understand what an opportunity cost is? Yes, okay, great. Now there are the economic agents. So agents are a group of people that moves the process, right? So agents include consumers, sometimes the government, and the producers, right? So in everyday life, we can be a consumer, right? A consumer is a person who buys or uses goods and services. So if you go to a market and you buy things, you are called a consumer. Producer over here on the right is a person or business that makes the goods or provides services. So producers, they make the goods, so they're the factories, or even farmers are producers, right? Farmers collect crops and they sell it to people. They are producers. The government is a body that makes rules and provides public services. In the context of economics, the government basically and creates certain rules to the economics, and they also provide public services. And public services is quite important part that the government provides. Because if we look at the diagram, the government gets taxes, right? If you heard about taxes, yeah, taxes are what you pay monthly or yearly to the government. So both the consumers and the producers pay taxes to the government. Those taxes are used usually to provide public services. Taxes are used to provide public services. Things like um, well-being of a city, the roads that you have, or certain trees that they plant, or here, the infrastructure purchases they get, or the wages and welfare that the consumers get. Those are public services provided by the government. So that is how the government interacts with consumers and producers. What about between consumers and producers? This is easier, right? This relationship is easier because what do you give to the producers when you buy something? Like, what do you give to the market or the farmers that you're buying from? You give money, right? Yeah, you give money to the producers, money for products and services, right? And what do producers give to consumers? Wages or all the goods and services, right? Producer gives the consumer goods and services, and consumer gives the producers money for producing things, right? Or for services. So we have seen three agents, economic agents, interacting with each other. Right? We've seen consumer, producer, and government working together in economics. Okay. Let's actually move on to this next slide. So, is everyone comfortable with the vocabulary that we have learned? Or do you want me to go back? Because this slide is a little bit of a quiz. So, is everyone ready for a quiz in terms of vocabulary? Or do you want me to go back a few slides? Yeah, is everyone okay with starting this quiz? Okay, so let's try a few questions. Um, the first one, what is a useful, what are useful or necessary ways of providing our needs? Useful or necessary ways of providing our needs. So what is this word? Does anyone want to try? Yeah, again, you don't need to be um too worried about getting it wrong because we are all learning, right? So, do you think it's earning this one? Yeah, we got a couple votes for earning. Okay. So, useful or necessary ways of providing our needs, right? The earning, what is earning? Earning is what we get, right? Or the rewards that we get. So earning is not about producing, right? Yeah, this is a little bit difficult, right? Um, but it says way of producing our needs. So how can a producer provide our needs? What do you think? Resources? Oh, resources is very close, but remember, resource, yeah, is what you use to create our needs, right? So The way of providing our needs, it's called a service, right? Way of providing our needs is called a service. So again, let's go back to this slide. So what was a service? Here, services is the work done for others, right? And that work are the amount of goods that you get. So producers provide services as a way of providing goods. So that's why the answer is services. So let's look at the simpler one, next one, right? This one. Using money to buy things. What would be a word for using money to buy? Oh, yes, that's right. I think I heard spending, right? Yeah. Yeah, that's correct. Yeah, it's spending. Yeah, spending is using the money to buy things. Okay. What about the next one? Things that can be bought or that someone owns. Yeah, sorry, can you repeat that if you have the answer? Oh, did you say goods? Yeah, that is right. Yeah, if you said goods, then that is correct. Yeah, great job. Mhm. Yeah, goods are things that can be bought or that someone owns. Yeah. Who are those who make goods? Yes, that's right. I think I heard producers. Yeah, that is correct. Yeah, it is producers. Producers are the ones who make goods. Yeah. Let's look at the next one. Something that is valuable or useful to a person or place. Yeah, this one can be a little difficult, but what do you think? Oh, did you say resources? Yeah, that is correct. Yeah, good job. Mhm. So resources, remember, are things that is valuable to a place or person. So any kind of resource is what producers or consumers use, right? We need resources. Yeah. Yeah, what about the next one? Keeping money for future use. Yeah, sorry, I couldn't hear that. If you said an answer. Yeah. Oh, yes, that's correct. If you said saving, that's correct. Mhm. Oops, can everyone hear me? Yeah. Okay, I think we are back. Okay, great. Mhm. All right, we just did saving. So, yeah, saving is keeping money for future use. What about the next question? Who are those who use goods and services? Yeah. Yes, that's right. I heard consumers. Mhm. That is correct. It's consumers.
Income.
Money earned regularly for doing it. Yeah, I heard.
Income.
Yes, that is an income. Great job. Or,
Yes.
yes. Mhm. So the last two. Oh, it can be interchanged. Um, Money earned regularly for doing a job, or a payment that is received for doing work. So these two are
Yeah.
tied together. Yeah. Yeah, no worries. Earning and income are pretty similar.
Yeah.
Yeah, in wording.
Yes.
Yeah, both earning and income are the amount of money that you gain from doing work. Yeah, both earning and income. Okay. Yeah, great job, everyone, for completing this quiz. But yeah, it's good to know what some of these mean and how some of these work, right? Okay, let's move on to the next topic, which is on supply and demand. Demand is how much people want a product. Supply is how much a product is available. So there are demands and supplies that we need to balance, right? Okay. So let's look at the supply and demand example. If the demand falls, then the supply rises, right? So the price falls down, right? If supply rises and demand falls, price falls down. You might be asking, why? Why does the price fall? Well, it's because you have a lot of things, right? You have a lot of things that are not selling because demands are low. Then you need to lower the price, lower the price in order to sell them, right? In order to decrease the supply. Okay. So, yeah, can everyone hear me? I think it cut out for a second. Um,
Network is not stable.
Oh, okay. Yeah, I think the network is a little bit um unstable right now, but um okay. Okay, I'll try my
Yeah,
best
yeah.
to
But
yeah,
I think it's
continue.
okay.
hmm Okay. So, yeah, we had again an example of where demand falls and supply rises. What you can do is lower the price so that demand goes up and supply goes down. You are trying to balance the demand and supply. What about when demand rises and supply falls? What should we do to balance that? We can raise prices. That's a good solution. Why? Raising prices decreases the demand because on the market, when you see something expensive, very expensive, do you still want to buy it? Um, Probably not, right? If something is too expensive, you don't want to buy it. So the demand falls down. And if demand falls, then supply rises. Less people are buying it, so more producers are making it before it runs out of stock. So this is how, with prices, you can balance supply and demand. Okay. Let's have another example. If only a few mangoes are available, but many people want the mangoes, the price of mangoes will increase, right? So then, if there are many mangoes and fewer buyers, the price will decrease. Okay. That's how supply and demand work together. Now, there is a bit of a mathematical part for statistics, and it's basically just used for drawing curves. So this is called a supply curve. Supply curve. What is in the x-axis for the supply curve? Yeah, what is in the x-axis? Yeah, it's the quantity, right? Quantity. What is in the y-axis? It is the price, right? So you can see that as the price goes up, the quantity of the supply goes up. So quantity equals the amount, right? Right. So let's say you increase the price to like 100 cedis, right? That's pretty expensive, right? But 100 cedis, if you put a price of 100 cedis, then the point is over here on the graph, right? Point is over here. And the quantity is also a lot of quantity. So increasing the price leads to increasing quantity or higher supply. So higher price means higher supply. What about a lower price, right? Let's say 10 cedis, right? How much quantity will be left if you set the price to be 10 cedis? Only this much, right? Very little quantity of supply. So lower prices mean lower supply. Mhm. So higher prices mean higher quantity of supply. Lower prices mean lower quantity of the supply. Yeah, this is called a positive correlation. Positive. because one increases, then the other increases. So we can see this positive correlation between the price and the quantity of the supply. Okay, let's look at one more curve. One more. It's the demand curve. Again, what was a demand? Does anyone remember? What is a demand? Yeah, so demand is what people want, right? How much of the want that people are willing to buy, right? So how much people want something is called a demand, right? But this is a demand curve. You can see it has the opposite direction. It's going this way, right? Down to the right. So let's look at a different thing, right? If the price goes up, let's say again, let's set the price to be 100 cedis. The price is 100 cedis. Where's the point of demand? Over here, right? That is very low quantity, right? That is low, very low quantity, right? Low quantity. Quantity of what? Of demand, right? So higher prices mean lower demand, lower quantity of demand, right? What about lower prices? 10 cedis. Let's set it at 10 cedis. Where is the point at 10 cedis? Over here. Can everyone see this? That's the point. These 2 points. Mhm. And that has a high amount of quantity. High. That's high. So lower prices mean higher demand, higher quantity of demand. Yeah. Finally, if we put the demand curve and the supply curve together, we get the demand supply curve, right? Both of these curves. And I want you to look at this center point where they intersect, where they cross. That is called the equilibrium point. Equilibrium point is the point where the supply curve and the demand curve meets. This is the most ideal price. Ideal price, right? Ideal price for both the supplier, both the producers and the consumers, right? So what if you decrease the price, right? If you decrease the price, it'll be over here, right? Be over here. If you decrease the price, what happens? Demand increases, but supply decreases, right? That's not fair for the supplier. That is why we need this point, this equilibrium point, because that is the ideal price in the market. Right? Yeah, just remember That equilibrium point is the ideal price that helps determine the market price. Right? So when you go to a store, right, and you wonder why these prices, right? Why is something more expensive than the other? Well, it's because of their equilibrium points are different, right? Each material's equilibrium points are different. So that is how they set prices. Okay. Let's have a quick summary. This is a summary page. Summary. So if the price is too high, remember, farmers bring many mangoes, but few people buy them. What does this mean? Price is high, then supply increases, okay? Demand decreases. Supply is greater than the demand. How do we balance this? We lower the price. Right? We lower the price. If the price is too low, many people want mangoes, but there are not enough mangoes for everyone. Right? What does this mean in the context of economics? Well, demand increases, right? Because the prices are low. Everyone wants to buy this because the price is low. But supply decreases, right? So many people buy the mangoes, and there are no more mangoes left. So the demand is greater than the supply. How do we deal with this? They increase the price. That's our solution. Eventually, the market reaches a price where supply equals the demand. So the price goes up and down until it reaches the equilibrium point, the equilibrium price. Okay. Yeah, does this make sense for everyone? Um, do you have any questions about supply and demand curves? Yeah, any questions so far?
Please, what is the meaning of equilibrium?
Oh, you're saying what is the meaning of
Yes.
equilibrium?
Of, yeah.
Oh, okay. Yeah, equilibrium basically means something that is,
Yeah.
yeah, not changing, right? So the net price or the net price is not changing at the equilibrium price. It's because it is settled down, right? Mhm.
Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you. You
Okay.
understand?
Yeah. Any other questions? Yeah, before we move on? No? Okay. I think we can move on then. Okay. Um, yeah, you'll have chance to ask more questions at the
Yeah.
end, but yeah, let's talk about macroeconomics. Right? Before this, we've only talked about microeconomics, but macroeconomics is the study of the whole country's economy. It looks at jobs, prices, trade, money, and how the country grows. Macro means large scale, right? Large scale. So macroeconomics deals with large scale economics, right? So everything that happens around the world, not in our daily lives, but around the world. Okay. All right. So again, microeconomics is the study behavior of an individual. We've talked about supply and demand. Supply and demand. That is microeconomics. Macroeconomics is the study of behavior of a state or a nation. And we will get to interest rate and GDP soon as well. Okay. Yeah. Um, yeah, if you finished writing it down, I will play this short video. Yeah, it is a short video that compares
Okay.
microeconomics, yeah, and macroeconomics.
Microeconomics versus macroeconomics. The study of economics.
Yeah, this video talked about microeconomics versus macroeconomics. Again, a very simple way to think about it is micro is small scaled, macro means big scale. Mhm. Okay, and here are some more topics to compare between macro and micro. Microeconomics, we talk about the market. We talk about the effect of prices of goods. We talk about labor market. We talk about consumer behavior. We talk about supply of good. All of them are micro. What about macro? Things like GDP, inflation, employment or unemployment, aggregate demand, or capacity of economy. All of those are on a macro scale, on a big scale of economics. Yeah, let's move on to the next slide.
Yeah.
Oops. Yeah, can everyone hear me okay?
Hello.
Hello? Yeah.
Okay.
Oh, is everything okay? Yeah. Okay. All right. Okay. I think I
It's okay.
can, yeah, continue. All right. Yeah, please let me know if the internet is too unstable, but I will continue with the GDP. Okay. So the GDP,
Yeah. You can
okay,
continue.
okay. Thank you. So GDP is the gross domestic product. GDP is the total value of all goods and services a country produces in 1 year. So GDP measures how much goods or services does a certain country provide. It shows how big and strong an economy is. And this is important, right? If the GDP of a country is high, then it is a very thriving and a well-built economic country, right? Because they sell and produce a lot of goods in a year. That shows, GDP shows how big and strong an economy is. So for example, if Ghana produces Coca-Cola, cocoa, gold, services, or like tourism, things like that, then its GDP grows. Then the Ghana GDP grows. And again, this shows how big or strong the economy of Ghana is. Let's watch this short video, which explains the concept of GDP.
Hi. I'm Willa, and I work here at the IMF. What is GDP, or Gross Domestic Product, and why should you even care? GDP is all around us. It's cars, clothes, doctors, hairdressers even. It's all part of GDP. Let me explain. Some people produce goods like cars or clothes. Others produce services like doctors or hairdressers. So if you add up the value of goods and services, you get gross domestic product. Or you can add up incomes. If you add up the income of all the United States in 1 year, you get US GDP. So a higher GDP means everyone's doing great, right? Not always. You see, GDP doesn't measure, for example, how fairly things are being distributed. Some people may be getting all of this income, or how much the environment is being damaged. A lot of cars may mean a lot of pollution. In fact, GDP doesn't even include some very important services, like childcare. If a babysitter looks after your younger brother for the day, they get an income, they're providing a service. But if your mom does the same exact thing and looks after your younger brother, she doesn't get an income, so it's not included in GDP. So GDP is failing to measure a very important service. But GDP is a good overall indication of how much an economy produces every year. So that's GDP. It's all around us, and it's very good to know.
Yeah, so we've learned about the GDP from the video. It's basically an indication of how much a country has a stable economy, right? Yeah, our next topic is on inflation. So what is inflation? Inflation means prices of goods and services go up over time. For example, if a piece of bread cost 5 cedis last year, now this year it cost 6 cedis. Why? It's because of inflation. So little inflation is normal, but too much makes life very expensive. As more money gather up due to inflation, then it makes everything very, very expensive. Right? Again, know that inflation is prices of goods and services going up every year. All right. Oh, here's a very short news article about inflation in Ghana. So I'm going to read this to you. So Ghana's annual consumer inflation fell to 11.5% in August 2025, a new low since October 2021, extending its downward trend for the 8th month. The cedi saw strength from rising commodity prices supporting Ghana's decline in inflation, but some signs of weakness have recently emerged. Food inflation cooled down to 14.8% in August from 15.1% a month earlier. That is an increase. While non-food price growth eased to 8.7% from 9.5%. So some of it fell down, right? Some of it increased. So it's talking about some Ghana annual consumer inflation falling down, which can be a good sign, right? Since prices are dropping down. But this was just an example of what you would see in a news article. You don't need to write this down. No, it's not really important. But this just shows how much a problem an inflation is around the world. It shows how important inflation can be. We can look at this time graph over the year too. Right? So over the years, Ghana inflation rates increased, right? So it started from here and then goes all the way up here, right? So Ghana had a peak inflation rate at around 2023 sometime, right? But more recently, Ghana inflation has been decreasing, right? It's been decreasing. That's pretty good, right? For the consumers, that means lowering prices. Inflation is increasing prices, so since there is a decrease in inflation rate, then the prices will lower. Right? So they're talking about this, right? This inflation rate. Okay. For the sake of time, let's move on to the next few slides. We have a couple more slides ready. Let's talk about employment and unemployment. So employment is the number of people who have jobs. So that's employment. Unemployment is the number of people who want jobs but cannot find one. A healthy economy gives more people good jobs so families can earn income, right? So employment is another indicator of how good a country's economy is. So employment is another indicator. How much available spots for a job is there in the country? So that is employment. Okay. Number of people who have jobs. All right. Now let's talk about interest rate. So the interest rate is the cost of borrowing money or the reward for saving money. Right? Cost of borrowing or reward for saving. That is called the interest. So if you save money in the bank pays you interest for keeping your money there. And if you borrow money from a bank, you must pay back more than you borrowed. That extra amount is called the interest. So let's say the interest rate is for borrowing money is 5% every year. 5% per year, right? And let's say you borrowed 100 cedis from the bank. You need to pay back to the bank 100 cedis, right? But if you've borrowed it for 1 year, if you borrowed it from 1 year, then you have to pay back 105 cedis. Why? Because of this interest, 5% interest. On the other hand, when you save money in the bank, when you put the money in the bank pays you interest. Right? Let's say like also 5% per year. It's not very common now, but let's say 5% per year interest. So if you save 100 cedis in the bank, after 1 year, you will have 105 cedis left, right? So this is below is borrowing, so it's let's say -100 to -105. If you save money in the bank and the bank pays you 5% interest, and it goes from 100 cedis to 105 cedis. So that's the concept of an interest and an interest rate. Okay. Yeah, now let's talk about trade. Trade is also a very important part that occurs across nations, right? Across nations, a lot of trade occurs. Trade is how a country buys and sells goods with other countries. For Ghana, for example, Ghana trades include cocoa, gold, and oil. They trade cocoa, gold, and oil to other countries. And in return, they either get money or other services or goods from other countries. So trade basically can occur globally. Can occur globally. The trades can occur globally. So that's why we're talking about it in macroeconomics. Yeah, and the government role, we've already discussed this, right? We've already talked about the government role. They collect taxes and they provide public services. Mhm. So the government uses tax money to provide schools, hospital, and police, and other government jobs. They build infrastructures like roads, bridges, and electricity. So the government gives you electricity kind of in return for paying taxes and things like that. Government also trades with other countries. They bring other imports and they control the export. And they're overall in charge of controlling the economy. They control the prices. They support farmers or create new jobs. That's what the government does. Mhm. All right. But recently, we're not using too much cash anymore. Some people are willing to use digital payments, right? By credit cards or by phone, things like that, right? So digital payments allow people to send and receive money electronically. People nowadays can use it to buy goods and services without cash, right? They can store the money using a credit card. So things include mobile money, bank cards, online payments, digital wallets. And other forms of digital money, there's also cryptocurrency, right? Things like Bitcoin. They're also considered a currency nowadays. So what I'm saying is there are many other options other than cash that allows people to buy or sell things. The advantages of digital payments is that they are fast and convenient. They're very convenient. It's easy to send money, and there's no need to carry cash. But there are also risks, right? Scams and fraud become more common. Hacking becomes more common. Or you can forget the password, right? Those are some risks. And yeah, I have one more video on just the digital payments. So you will learn about what the digital payments are and how it is used in our lives. So I hope you liked this video.
As president and CEO of Needham Bank, I always say,
We find ways to say yes.
we also have
A digital payment system works by allowing money to move electronically between people, banks, and businesses. It replaces traditional cash with data that travels securely across networks whenever someone initiates a transaction. The process begins the moment a user chooses a payment method and confirms an intended purchase. Their device sends encrypted information to a service that verifies the identity behind the payment details. This verification. If you enjoyed the video,
Yeah, that video was about, digital payments, how they work, and how that's changing our current lives, right? Because it's becoming more convenient and fast to exchange money and to make payments. But it's important to also know about cybersecurity, right? About possible scams that you see on the internet or the possible scams that you see through email. So what are scams? Right? Scam is a trick used to steal money or personal information, right? So scammers pretend to be a trusted people or companies, and they might ask you your password or money to steal money from you, right? So they use all different kinds of tricks, right, to steal the other person's money. So a common scam example are things like fake messages saying that you want money, people asking for your password, fake mobile money transfers, or unknown lists on your phone. Right? So if a scammer can call you or email you, or they'll use all these different tricks to steal your information or money. So, for example, let's look at this email, right? There was an email from Netflix feedback or someone like that, right? It's to me, and it says reply to info@foodstampnews.com, right? It seems a little strange because it says food stamp news, right? Not Netflix. Netflix is a big company, but it's saying that you want a reward, and it's saying that you should click here in order to claim the $50 gift card, right? And there are a couple of red flags on this email. So why do you think this is a scam? Well, first of all, it says food stamp again. The replier email is not an official Netflix email. Right? What else? It says you can get $50 Netflix gift card. Without previous notice, they can't just email you saying that you won a certain amount of money. And more importantly, it says click here with a link, right? They usually don't provide a direct link to claim a gift card. They'll usually tell you to visit their website if there's any benefit. So you can tell that this is a scam email, an example of a scam email. But it's as cybersecurity or the online system develops, there are many other types of threats, right? Things like viruses, spyware, ransomware, and phishing. All of those are cyber threats that we face. So although the internet and the online system is amazing, we still have a lot of threats to defend from. And defending or ensuring security is called cybersecurity. Right? Cybersecurity means protecting your personal information and money online. Right? It keeps your phone, money, and accounts safe. And it helps prevent hackers from stealing your information. Here's a couple ways that you can stay safe. Right? Do not share password or PIN online. Do not trust unknown messages. Check before sending money. Ask an adult or teacher if unsure. Or use security software like antivirus when possible. And always, be careful online. If you look at something that looks too good to be true, it is often a scam. Right? Here are a couple ways that you can stay safe online. But thank you everyone for watching. I have maybe this one more video on what a cybersecurity is. So let's watch this final video and that will be the end for today. So Okay. So that was our last video for today. But the video talked about, cybersecurity and how it's important to stay safe online. So I think that is it for today. Unfortunately, we ran out of time. But does anyone have final questions before we end for today? Any final last minute questions?
Please, what is the meaning of VPN?
Oh, you mean what is the meaning of VPN? So, the VPN is called a virtual private network. So, VPN basically makes you safe by relocating your location and securing your IP address. Right?
Okay.
Thank you. Any other questions?
No.
If there are no questions, next week we will talk about our next week's topic is on climate change. And after the climate change, we will move on to further science topics. So, I will also try to get to the topics that the students wanted. So,
Okay. Yeah, hello, Jamie.
Yes.
Hello. Yeah,
Sir, can you hear me?
yeah, I can hear you
Yeah,
now.
okay.
Thank you very much for the lesson.
Mhm.
And thank you guys for your visits and all your gifts. God will
Oh,
bless
yeah.
you guys. I really appreciate it. Yeah, sure, sure. Okay, so next week is on climate change, right?
Yes, that's correct. Mhm.
Okay, so next week is a holiday. Yes. I think next week we're not coming to school.
Oh, next week there's no school? Oh, okay.
Yeah. Next week, Friday, not coming to school. So I don't know if you're going to change it to Tuesday or something.
Are you
Or what do
available,
you think?
yeah, any other day of the week? Maybe not Friday, but
Okay, okay. So that is fine. So I think next week is 3rd July, right? Next week, Friday is 3rd July. So that is
yes.
a holiday.
Oh, okay. Then do you want to
So
meet
we can do it
yeah, 2 weeks from today?
on the
Or
2nd. That was fine.
wait,
Okay, 2 weeks. All right. All right.
okay, yeah, that sounds good. Mhm.
All right. That's fine. So see you in the next 2 weeks.
Yes, that's right. Okay. Yeah, then thank you everyone for listening. Yeah, I'll see everyone in 2 weeks.
Okay, so yeah,
Bye everyone. Mhm.